What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the second ever Q&A. Before I get into the questions which have been submitted this week, which excellent, I first and foremost want to say that if you guys have questions that you would love me to answer in these Q&A, either trading mindset specific, general mindset specific, or anything else, just fire them through my Instagram. The link's below in the description. Or just leave them on my YouTube videos, just message me, however way, email me, whatever. Get these questions to me and I'll cover them in the Q&A. Okay, so the first question I have here is, hey Pat, I was wondering if you could advise me on something, as I'm currently going for funding and I've been consistently profitable for a while and I know my stuff and I'm very confident in my edge, okay? But all of a sudden when I started to go for funding, it felt like I was getting overwhelmed in terms of, I saw people around me and the coaches I learned from change up their trading style. Okay, now, the first thing I'd be probing here, there's more to the question, but let's break it down. The first two things I would probe here is have a look at what your perception is towards the funding. If you have funding way up on a pedestal and you're expecting, and you have a lot of fantasies attached to the funding, then being overwhelmed and all those types of things will be a result of that, because we fear losing that which we're infatuated with. If we have the funding way up on a pedestal, we're going to go for that and we're going to have a lot of stress and anxiety around that because we fear losing that. So I'd be getting really clear, okay, is the overwhelm, ask yourself this question: if you weren't going for the funding, would you still be overwhelmed by seeing your coaches change their trading style? And if the answer is yes, it's okay. It's probably not the fact that you have the funding up on a pedestal, but if the answer is no to that question, would you still be getting overwhelmed? If the answer is no to that, then you probably do have the funding up on a pedestal. So I saw the coaches and the people around me that I learned from change up their trading style. Now, by the way, if you have the funding up on a pedestal, I put a video together. But go in there and list the drawbacks and list the risks of having that funding. The reason you become infatuated or put things up on pedestals is because you perceive more advantage, more benefit from getting that particular thing in your life, which is an imbalanced perception. It means you're aware of all the advantages and all the gains you can get from it, but you're unaware of the risks, the drawbacks, and the disservices in your life. The moment you make yourself aware of them, don't make anything up, but just have a look. You balance your perception towards the funding, you take it off the pedestal, you clear a lot of the anxieties, the fears, the stresses, the overwhelms. You're aware of everything that could go wrong. You can put contingencies in place for that, and you're more likely to achieve that because you have confidence with that goal. Okay? It's a very powerful exercise that if you're going for funding, I'd encourage you to do. Anyway, let's go back to this question. You saw the people around you and the coaches you learned from changing up their styles. Okay, this is the second thing I'd probe. So check, is the funding up on a pedestal? The second thing I'd probe here is make sure the confidence you have in the style, because you said you're very confident in your style, make sure that confidence doesn't come from other people. Make sure, I think it's incredibly important that when you're developing a trading style and building a system, the confidence you get in that system comes from the data you see in the market. And that can only be developed through going in and doing your own testing. If you don't want to backtest, that's fine. It's just going to take more time in the real life condition to build up that data and to build up that certainty and confidence in your style. But if you're being very confident in a system because of other people are trading that, other coaches are trading that, it's not a sustainable approach. It's not an approach that's independent and sustainable. And we all get into this business to be independent, to be sustainable, to be free. And are you truly free? Are you truly independent if you're still reliant on other people and other coaches? So the second thing I'd be probing here is ensure, now it's great feedback, make sure you build confidence and certainty in your styles, not because other people trade it, not because other coaches trade it, but because you know the data supports the fact that you have an edge. It's truly key. It's key. Now, let's keep on with this question. It's a long question. Okay, good. I saw, that I learned from change up the styles and how they look at the market. So I started thinking, is what I'm doing right? Is there a better way? Okay. I know people that are very chill in the manner they just wake up and do their stuff every day without being bothered with what other people are doing. Yep, if you take people off pedestals and you realize that whatever the individuals you admire, you have too, because ultimately you don't see things in other people that you don't have within yourself, you give permission to focus on yourself. You don't inject their priorities, you don't inject what they do, you pave your own path and you stick to what's priority to you. Okay? I want to be that kind of person that executes the same tested things every day, but it's hard to deal with this overwhelming, confused feeling in my mind about finding balance between adapting with the market and staying consistent with my execution and edge in the market. Okay, so as well as implementing the two things I just mentioned prior, I think you raised a very good point where every trader is constantly in a battle between sticking to what they know and refining and updating what they know. And I think it's no different to life. You have to constantly stress test your beliefs, your understandings, your insights to see if what you know is true or have times changed, have things adapted. So what I personally do is I tend to have on a quarterly basis with my trading a time where I review my previous data and really go in there and do an in-depth review on the market and the changes in the market and the changes in my style and my strategy to make incremental adjustments. Now, the key thing here is you don't want to do that too often, too frequently. If you're doing that on a weekly basis, you're going to end up chasing your own tail because you're not giving permission for your edge to play out enough to make sensible adjustments. And also, the market can sometimes ebb and flow in terms of what it provides. And we have to understand as traders that the important thing to note here is that taking losses is not necessarily an indication that your strategy is wrong or poor or needs refinement. Sometimes taking losses and sometimes going in drawdown is perfectly on track for a successful strategy. So that's why I tend to make incremental adjustments, if any, on a quarterly basis. As well as sticking to what I know, I also try and disprove what I know so I can make any incremental adjustments on a quarterly basis. So that would be my third piece of advice. Or I could just be having a drama queen moment. I love that. I think we all go through those drama queen moments because in the past I've been prone to overthinking and making a big deal out of small things. Nope, I think as human beings we react in very intentional ways because at the end of the day all our emotions are feedback. They're all giving us feedback and they're all giving us insights and probing. So I think you've raised a few really great points here. I ran through 3 points in particular. Take the funding off the pedestal. It's step number 1. Step number 2 is own the traits you admire in these individuals and realize that these coaches and these people you're looking up to, you're only seeing them things you have within yourself. Go find your own form of that. They'll give you permission to focus on your trading and your system and your data, and ultimately use data to build confidence in your system. Don't rely on other people, because are you truly independent? Are you truly free if you're still relying on other people to learn how to trade? In the long run, I think it's wise to study and learn under great people, but ultimately you have to take that information and implement it in a way that's truly unique to you to be sustainable as a trader. And then finally, the last little piece of advice I gave here is quarterly micro adjustments to your plan. So thank you very much for sending that question in. It was a big one. I like it. Okay, the next question here is full-time traders whose main and only income is through trading. How did you overcome the psychological barrier and fear that you'll solely be independent on trading now? Okay, I mentioned this in the last Q&A, that all fears are birthed out of fantasies. Phobia and philia are inseparable states in your mind. They're two poles of the same magnet. So if you're having fears of going full-time and making an income full-time as a trader, you want to identify what fantasy you're comparing your life to about that. And what unrealistic expectations do you have on the market to provide you something that's not real? Because the moment you have unrealistic, one-sided expectations, your mind will create fears as feedback and as feedback to make you aware that you're pursuing a fantasy. So the psychological fear is coming most likely from pursuing a fantasy or an unrealistic expectation. Now, so to overcome that barrier, it would be making yourself aware of what fantasies are you pursuing. Are you pursuing the fantasy that trading is consistently on a monthly basis going to be paying you out a big paycheck? Because if that's the case, you're going to have a lot of fears associated with that. And if that's the case, go in there and really crack that fantasy and really become self-aware and ask yourself, do I have any control over this? And this leads me to my next point. If you're relying solely on a trading income, then you're, to a degree, leaving your income in the hands of something that's not certain and it's improbable. At the end of the day, we only have control over our perceptions, our decisions, and actions. We have control as traders to execute on our processes as a trader. The outcome, to a degree, is reliant and dependent on how the market moves as well. So you may want to ask yourself, do I really want my only source of income to be dependent on something that's improbable and something that's a probability model? And for me, personally, the answer is no to that question with quite a lot of certainty. But it may be a yes for you, and that's fine. If it's a yes for you and you truly want to rely on trading as your sole source of income, step number one, without a doubt, would be creating some form of cash cushion and cash buffer. A 6-month cash buffer where you have cash in the bank if you need it. And the reason you have that there is because it becomes psychological cushioning for you, and then the emotional volatilities tend to lower because you know you've got cash in the bank if it's necessary, which gives you permission to focus on your processes and not try and force trades because you have to make bills. So if you do want to rely on your trading as a single source of income, I would be, without a doubt, creating a 6-month cash cushion buffer and stashing that in a bank or under your bed, whichever method you prefer. Now, if you don't want your trading to be the only source of income, great. I think there are, I think traders by nature, I wouldn't say by nature, but I think traders, if you think about what it means to become a trader, it's a lot of discipline, it's a lot of focus, it's a lot of intentional work. And I think traders have been through a journey where they can just take those principles and apply it to business. Or they can apply it to other projects. And you come to realize that you've worked really hard to create a source of income. Go have a look at what you did, the routines, the processes that you established, and you can go and create another source of income. And you can create multiple sources of income through business, through other investment options, coaching, helping people. Ultimately, income is a result of helping others get an outcome in their life. So if you can help people achieve an outcome in their life, you're going to get income from that. And another thing that I think is really powerful for traders is if you're, because trading is a zero-sum game. For you to win, someone else has to lose. But there's an opportunity to attach a positive sum outcome to that as well, where when you win, someone else wins, and there's a win-win situation. And that can be done through capital management, that can be done through education or coaching, whatever it may be. So as a trader, I would always be thinking, how can I use my skills? How can I use my knowledge? How can I use my insights, my network, all these types of things to, as well as having my trading income, create a positive sum income as well, where I'm helping someone get an outcome in their life and I'm getting an income from that. That's at least the path I took, and we ended up here. So I would be thinking about that. Okay, hopefully that gives some insights. Now, the last question I got here, and then I want to wrap up on a bit of a note, is from on my Instagram. Hey, I recently watched your video with Bamba, great, and I would like to know more about your training. Okay, hope you'll reply. Okay, I'll reply, thank you. So my training, my physical training, my gym and that type of stuff. I'd like to know more about your training. Well, my current routine, actually let me start with this. I think it's very obvious that every human being has 7 areas to their life. You've got your health, you've got your wealth, which is your trading, you've got business or vocation, you've got family and relationships, you have some form of social leadership, you got, your spirituality, you got your mental expansion, all those types of things. There are 7 areas to life. And I truly believe that if you don't empower all 7 areas of your life, then you're going to be subject to being overpowered in the ones you don't empower. For example, if you don't empower yourself physically or your health, you're going to be told what medication you have to take. If you don't empower yourself in your wealth and your money, you're going to be told how much you're worth. If you don't empower yourself in a vocation or a business and become more entrepreneurial, you're going to have to rock up to work at a certain time. So any area you don't empower, you're subject to being overpowered in. And I made the decision years back to not do one at the compromise of the rest. Because if you focus solely on one and you leave the others hanging, the others are going to be a distraction on the one. And a lot of your challenges are going to happen in the other, which are ultimately going to impact the one you're focused on. So I truly promote a holistic overview to empowering your life and empowering all 7 areas of your life. Even if you're just a trader and you just classify and identify yourself as a trader, I think it's still wise to empower all 7. So to answer the question here, what do I do for my training, my health and my training? Well, we can break that up in a few different things. I lift weights, and this is, by the way, I'm not a doctor or a personal trainer or anything like that. This is personally my experience, what I found works well for me. But I choose a strength training approach, which is lifting weights. And I tend to do that about 5 days a week. It's what I love, and that's what I've seen best results from. And I eat food. I drink a lot of water. I've constantly got water next to me. And I think that drinking a lot of water is very wise. I tend to not eat early in the day. I tend to start eating later in the day. And I tend to eat a lot of good food. I eat a balanced diet, a lot of veggies, some protein, and yeah, I train, I walk, I drink a lot of water, I exercise, and I eat very well, and I do some fasting as well. So these are all things that I found have been extremely beneficial in my life, in my journey, in my fitness journey. And I've seen positive implications to my trading, into my business, into my learning from taking care of my health. To my relationships, I'm more confident as a person. I can do things like this because I'm confident in who I am and how I look. And I think those are all integral parts of becoming who you want to become. So that's a little bit about my training and my fitness. Now, there's one last note that I want to finish on, and I sort of touched on this in the last episode as well. I recently watched a YouTube video where someone was incredibly burnt out and really burnt out to the point where they had to stop trading for a little while and they got, that type of stuff. And what I've observed in terms of human behavior and people burning themselves out is a couple of things. First and foremost, if we have unrealistic expectations on ourselves, that we have to be one-sided, we have to be positive, we have to be winning, we have to be up, we have to be successful all the time, that can become extremely, extremely exhausting because we're imposing an artificial fantasy on top of human nature. You would have heard me talk about this before. This is probably not new if you've listened to any of my videos. So what I think is incredibly wise is go in there and find the parts of your life that you're labeling negative and bad, the losing, the challenge, all that type of stuff, and find how it serves and benefits your life. And you'll realize when you do that exercise deeply enough that you don't need to get rid of any part of yourself to be exceptionally great as a trader. And you don't need to get rid of any part of yourself to be exceptionally great as a human being either. All parts of the spectrum are essential, and all parts are helping you to grow and to have max evolution. So I see a lot of burnout from people who have artificial fantasies on themselves because they can't live up to the fantasies they're imposing on themselves, and that leads to, it's very exhausting. The other form of burnout is very common, where we have people up on pedestals and we have authority figures in our life, usually parents, and we inject the priorities of what we think our parents want us to do. And we have our own unique set of priorities in our life, and we want to go off and pursue those, but we have an internal conflict where we inject the priorities of these authority figures, and we have a clash internally where it's fighting between what we want and what these other people are doing, and that also becomes extremely exhausting and can lead to things like burnout as well. So you can go find the benefits of the negative in your life, very powerful exercise. And on top of that, if you have certain people in your life who you've got up on a pedestal and you know you're injecting the priorities of, and you know that these people are running your life to a degree kind of thing, and they're influencing your decision making, go in and own the things you admire in them. And realize that the only reason you're admiring them and putting them up on a pedestal is because they're reminding you of certain parts of you in your own unique form. You give yourself great permission, you give yourself power and freedom, I call it. Power and freedom when you learn to take people off pedestals and also learn to take people out of pits and learn to level people with you relative to you. Because until you do, you fear losing the people you're infatuated with, and you fear gaining the people you resent in your life, and it's very exhausting. But when you level the people around you and you realize that you're a reflection of everybody, the people you like and the people you dislike, you give yourself great power and freedom to focus on your mission in life. Very powerful. Okay, so that's enough of me rambling. Hopefully this was insightful. Again, fire through your questions for next week, and I will get to them. So hope you all have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you soon. If you gain value from this particular video or any of my other videos, I'm going to encourage you guys to subscribe and turn the notification bell on. I push out value pretty much every single day, and I would love you guys to stay up to date because I'm certain what I'm pushing out is going to provide an immense amount of value to you as a trader in the markets. I also currently have one lesson unlocked in my course. This particular lesson is valued at $97. I'm certain just this one lesson will help you transform your perception and perspective in the markets and will help you improve your bottom line as a trader. I assure you this one lesson will help improve your results and also lower stress in the market. It's valued at $97, and right now it's completely complimentary, so you can get access to that free lesson right now in the description below. And finally, if you guys got value from this or any of my other videos, I'm going to encourage you guys to share these videos with those in your network that you know will get value from them too. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.